Salutations to all 5 subscribers. We may make it. We may make it. No. But, you know, I literally can't do intros. I really can't. First of all, new location. I have an apartment now. Who cheered? It's kind of crazy. It really is. It like happened overnight. And the story behind that is a little crazy too. If you have seen my previous videos, you will know that I had been looking for housing for like 2 years, with no luck because I can't afford jack diddly shit, because I can't get a job, because I can't drive, because I'm disabled, etc, and wah. But what happened basically is I had 2 fights with my parents, pretty big fights that happened kind of close together. And one night, you know, it was kind of in a little bit of a calm era, and I said something that kind of set my mom off because she kind of set me off. You know how it goes. But basically, I think she just got sick of me, because the next day she told me that she had a showing set up for me at this apartment. So, I mean, squeaky wheel gets the oil, bitch. I got that motherfucking oil. But it's pretty nice. I enjoy living here despite the fact that I'm still primarily in isolation for the majority of time. I kind of thought that like moving into my own place near a city would sort of fix that issue of never being able to go anywhere or do anything. But it really is just this country and the infrastructure and being disabled. It's not really escapable, I've come to find. And I'm coping with that surprisingly okay. But, you know, it's rough. It's rough out here. But anyways, I've decided to add a little bit more structure to these videos because I don't want to do video essay content. I don't want to, like, I don't want this to become something that is, like, a burden on me. But I have realized that, like, my topic ideas are not quite expansive enough to make full videos on, you know? So I have separated this into, my first half is going to be a little update on things, and then I'm going to have a segment called The Sip, which is basically going to be my video diaries, but, you know, not on their own, because I feel like people are less likely to watch just, like, some random bitch's video diary. And then, the third segment, my favorite, is going to be The Ugly Truth, which, if you've seen my previous videos, or if you know me at all in real life, you know that I have a weird preoccupation with ugliness. It is, like, my favorite topic to analyze and talk about, so, yeah. So, you know, besides, the update I just gave you, the little emotional portion of this is I'm doing not great. The more I become more independent and like out on my own, the more I realize that like it may not necessarily be just my upbringing that keeps me separated from others. It may just be me. It may just be who I am fundamentally as a person. And I'm trying to like come to grips with that and see if there's any way that I can, I don't know, rectify that without having to fully change myself, because I've done that so many times in the past and it's just not my cup of tea. I don't like doing that. I don't know anybody that fucking likes doing that, but that has been the only way I've been able to like interact with others and make friends. And because of that, it kind of seems like a lot of my connections are very transactional. It seems like people kind of keep me around as like, you know, the just in case friend, the, well, I'm not doing anything else today friend, or, you know, somebody that will like do nice things for you. And I don't want to do things to get things in return, but it is a little bit exhausting. And I can't really even be mad at anyone for viewing me this way, because this is kind of the way that I have presented myself as someone, you know, who will pay for things, who will help you with things, and who will like do extravagant shit. But I don't get that in return from anybody, and it is a little bit painful. That is a slight exaggeration. I'm not sure exactly how to word this, because I think it really is me. It's not other people, you know, being wrong in any way. It's that I have this expectation of myself that like, this is gonna sound so fucking corny, but I just have a lot of love in my heart. And I really want to express it like in every way that I can, but I don't necessarily have the means to do that the way that I want to, and I kind of exhaust myself attempting to do that, and then getting like resentful that I make myself do that. And I don't want that to occur. But the thing about this is that when I stop doing those things, when I stop being the one to initiate, when I stop being the one that does all these favors and gives all these gifts, I stop being included. And what I think it is I don't think that it's people being like consciously, he's not doing anything for me, so I guess that's over. I think it's more so that people get used to me as presenting in a certain way, and when I pull back from doing that, it comes across as me being mad, which I don't want either. So I've kind of trapped myself in this hole where I have to keep expending my energy as far as it can possibly go until I have nothing, or I can be alone. And we know I don't do being alone. And the issue with this also is I don't have a persona to fall back on that resonates with people. I've come to realize that, and I, like my whole life, have had this kind of mindset, and I have been trying to rid myself of this mindset because I'm like, no, that can't be true, that can't be true. Nobody is fundamentally different. And that's what I'm saying is like, I feel like I am fundamentally different from most people. But these days, the more I am out there interacting with a wider range of people, the more I feel like I really am just too different to be relatable to people. And if you're not relatable, you're not desirable. Like, people, you know, they make friends based on commonalities. And I have a lot of baseline commonalities, but the deeper you go, which you don't have to go that deep for you to find differences in me, but what I'm saying is like, I can't connect on a deep level with people because people don't understand me no matter how hard I try to explain. And I think this is partially due to the fact that I was raised in such isolation and low-key like raised by the internet and by TV. I've had so much time to myself that I have deconstructed most frameworks that I think most people are still in and don't even know that they're in. And I don't say that to be like, I'm superior, I'm enlightened and you are not. I don't mean it like that. I mean, it is pure chance that I was raised in such a situation where I had the time and the resources to educate myself like this and to take in so many different viewpoints that I can deconstruct them somewhat easily. I know a lot of people, the way that, you know, like if you go to public school, if you have to carry a job, if you have a family, if you have all these responsibilities, like you don't get to do that kind of thing. And not to say that my life has been a bed of fucking roses, but I definitely have had a privilege in that I have had time to myself, even if it was more time than I would have liked to have to myself. And disability has compounded this because the fact that I was homeschooled is enough to kind of set me back socially pretty far. But on top of that, I'm practically blind, and I don't catch a lot of cues, also because I'm autistic, on top of not being able to see, even if I can see, like up close. I have a hard time reading a lot of cues from people if I'm not like intimately familiar with them, which is hard to achieve. And because of that, I know for a fact that I misread cues very frequently, and I come across probably as being rude or inconsiderate because of it, but it's really just because I physically cannot process the information that other people are processing. And on top of that, being disabled and coming from an uncommon background makes me extremely unrelatable. And I've already talked about how, you know, unrelatable is undesirable. There's nothing in me for others to connect to, at least on a deep level. And the fact that I do not live within beauty politics or consumerism, which is truly like 90% of popular culture, 90% of what people connect over, that I just find utterly dull, mind-numbingly boring. And I don't care if Taylor was engaged. I don't care if fucking what's her name, Charlie and some people on Twitter are having some beef. I don't care. I don't understand why other people care. And vice versa. Nobody understands or seems to understand why I care about the things that I care about. And like, even people I'm close to, I don't feel like they find an interest in the things that I find interesting. And that makes conversation very difficult because there's only so much that can be said on things that I really just can't make myself be very emotional about. And I know that this is how people feel talking to me as well, because a lot of my interests are not mainstream or are considered very boring to most people. And a lot of the things that I would like to talk about fundamentally go against a lot of the frameworks that majority of people live in, that I cannot make myself participate in if I tried. You know how they have jokes about being the woke friend or whatever? All my friends are woke, by the way. All of them bisexual, all of them eat hot chip lie, all of them charge phone, and most of them are non-binary, okay? I am in a very woke circle. And even within that group, they refer to being out-woked as being out-sippied. Sippy's me. A lot of it has to do with how often I point out beauty politic, which I know probably gets annoying, but it's annoying to witness when you're aware of it. But another one that I don't even dare to broach because I know it is a sore subject, and I want to preface by saying that I don't judge people for living in frameworks that they are indoctrinated to live in from birth. But it's kind of like the pain of watching somebody do something that you know does not serve them, but that they will continue to do regardless because it's so ingrained. And I don't say this again. I gotta say again, because I do not want this to be taken the wrong way. I don't take this as people being less intelligent. I think my friends are very, very, very intelligent. But I don't think that a single conversation with me really is going to change their mind. And I do find that slightly frustrating because I want people to understand things for the good of them and also for the good of like society as a whole. And it feels like since I am disabled, since I can't drive, there's very little that I can do to help my community, and I want to so badly, to the point that I have been scammed around 4 times, actually. Around 4 times I have had money swindled from me from online scammers that are pretending to be in situations that they're not in. Because donating is like the only thing that I can do. It's like nothing else is really super accessible to me. And so, you know, there's mutual aid, which I can't get to a lot of the time, so it is online giving of money for me. And there's having these conversations. And these conversations, they don't seem to work. Which leads me into the first topic of ugly truth, which is that if you do not have an interest in romance, you will never be someone's priority. Out of everyone in my friend group, I am never considered first. It is always the partner, and then usually they have a best friend that is not me, and then there's me. And it's just, I don't understand why relationships have to be placed on a hierarchy. I've had this conversation with so many people, and I have never once gotten a straight answer. I don't personally experience romantic attraction from what I can tell. I've been in one relationship, and I agreed to it because I said, fuck it, I've never been in one before, let's try it out. And if you know, it went horribly. And it going horribly did not make me aromantic. I think I was aromantic before, but I guess it didn't help either. That's an aside, let's get back on topic. Romance. So, in the comments, if you would define romance for me, I would really appreciate that. But my question is that how can you possibly separate romantic attraction from a sexual or sensual attraction? Because for me, when I see somebody that I want a connection with, I don't think about the category in which I desire a connection. You know what I mean? Like, I get what a lot of people would call friendship crushes, but to me, they just feel like the regular experience of somebody having a crush, except I don't desire exclusivity or being held in a higher regard by this person or anything. Like, I just don't desire romance. I desire connection. And the way that presents for me is like anybody that I want to be friends with, I get a crush on. And it's not a romantic crush. It's so hard to explain, because for me, when I pick somebody that I'm like, I want to be your friend, I would be content with a friendship. I would be content with a relationship, exclusive or not. I just want to have that person in my life. And I don't necessarily expect any sort of treatment or service from them. I just find an interest in them and want to experience them for what they are. And I'm using the word friend because it's easy to explain, but what I really mean is connection. And I don't have a preference for what type of connection that is, like as long as it's not like enemies, as long as it's like a positive connection, whether or not it's placed in any sort of category, romantic or platonic, I could give less of a shit. And it's difficult for me to comprehend that people can have romantic crushes as something separate than what I have just described, because I experience these with the exact same level of intensity that people who put these crushes in the category of romantic or sexual do. Like, I go through agony over these crushes, right? And I understand sexual attraction. The way I experience that, I don't even think I could put into words audibly, but I get that that's different from simply wanting a connection with someone. Like, you want to do a specific action with them, you want to have sex with them. I understand that. And I understand how that, in combination with the desire for an emotional, intellectual, whatever connection, is romance, I guess. To put that in terms that are less incomprehensible, my understanding of romance is it's a desire for emotional and intellectual connection combined with a desire for sex and exclusivity. Obviously, there's some wiggle room there with polyamory, but more or less, that is my concept of romance. And that is the concept of romance that I see performed by most people that label their relationship as romantic. So imagine the concept of romance minus the sex. What does that actually entail? Because obviously I'm a massive dyke, look at me. So I am familiar with all of the queer lingo that's like, you know, the split attraction concept, like where you have your romantic, sexual, sensual, platonic, aesthetic, intellectual attraction, all separated into these neat little categories, which initially made more sense to me. However, when you separate the idea of romance from sex, there doesn't seem to be anything left. It just seems to be an arbitrary label that you put on a relationship that you want to be exclusive in some way. And the way that I process that is that romantic relationships are higher on the hierarchy of priority. And I've explained the way that I conceive of romance to my friends in romantic relationships. Okay, most people in a romantic relationship, they will deny that it is about sex or that it is a hierarchy that their partner is in above you as a friend. Most people will deny that romantic relationships are not about sex and they're not about any sort of power structure. But then they'll also say that it's different than just being a friend that fucks. And I don't understand that. In my mind, what is the difference between roommate, friends with benefits that have a deep emotional bond, and people that are in a committed romantic relationship? If there is not a power structure in place wherein your partner receives higher priority over anyone else in your life. And it is that exact sort of power structure that makes me averse to any kind of concrete romance. That, and part of that power structure also is the exclusivity. When I get a friend, I don't tell them, you can't be friends with anybody else. You can't have the same conversations with anybody else. You can't cook for anybody else. You can't blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to sex, people are like, you can't do that. And I just do not process it. It is just like, it's pure jealousy. And to me, jealousy isn't something that should be a core tenet of a relationship. It should be something that you overcome. And that doesn't mean that you have to be polyamorous and go around fucking everybody. But it should mean that you, why do you care? Why do you care? And I fully believe that this attitude harms friendships. Because one singular person should never, ever be fully in charge of meeting all of your needs. Or even most of your needs. Or even most of your needs in a single category. Nobody should have that weight placed on them. This is why people are meant to live in communities, and why capitalism and the fucking car-based infrastructure has screwed us all, is because it makes it impossible to do that. And these ideas about romance and the jealousy that pervades it compounds that. I don't have a solid time frame on this, but back in Emily Dickinson times, right? It was more normal for girls, not necessarily for guys, but even more so for guys than it is now. It was normal for people to have affectionate friendships wherein they would cuddle, they would kiss on the cheek, they would hold hands, lock arms and whatnot, and write each other sappy letters about how important they are to each other. And I know a lot of these were lesbians that are later described as friends, but a lot of them are just friends. I'm sorry to break it to you guys. Sometimes they were just friends. Sometimes that's how it is. I don't understand why we can't also appreciate the beauty that is friendship. Why does that always have to be romance to be considered profound or interesting? But these days it is far less acceptable to do those things. You get accused of being gay, which I am gay, but it's not always because I want to bang. Sometimes I just want to write a long poem expressing my love for you as my friend, and it doesn't have to be anything. What I've come to realize is that if you're not interested in romance, you're not going to be someone's priority. You're not going to get affection from that person in a way that isn't very surface level. You just won't be considered in the same light. You will never be as important to anyone if you don't engage in the concept of romance. And I just have a lot of resentment for that, because I could care less about romance. I could care less if somebody that I'm fucking wants to fuck somebody else. I don't care. I don't care if my friends have friends. It's the same thing to me. And I want the connection, the depth of connection and care that comes from romance, but I don't want all that extra crap that comes with it. I don't want the jealousy. I don't want the exclusivity. I just want to be close to you, friend. And it bums me out because obviously it affects me negatively in that I am nobody's top bitch, which hurts a little bit. It does, but it also hurts the people that are taking part in these relationships the focus on jealousy is at a detriment to them. And at a detriment to, like, their romantic relationship, but also every single other relationship. Because it all, like, for people that follow romance in this way, it all kind of leads back to that. Like, that's the focal point, and everything else is secondary. And everything else has the possibility of being a threat. And so, when something as simple as receiving affection from a friend can dismantle your relationship so quickly, and, like, it's just, it shows that it's an unnatural paradigm that you're trying to fit into, but that most people just don't fit into, because most people aren't meant to rely on a single person for that much. And it creates this fear in people that if my partner can get their needs met from somebody else, then what am I good for? You're good for the same thing. We can all meet each other's needs. That's how it's supposed to be. And all this to say that I do not cross boundaries like this when I know that they're in place, obviously. I will respect these. And I respect people's right to have these boundaries, even if I think they're unhealthy. But I know that people are capable of escaping this idea without having to lose any of what they gain from their partner. Like, there's simply just more to gain. You won't be losing anything by breaking the idea in your mind that love has to be a scarcity sort of thing. Anyways, moving on to what will hopefully be the final topic of this video. A few more reasons why you should stop being anorexic. Whether or not these are your conscious reasons for being anorexic, I'm sorry I sound a little bit I'm passionate about this topic because I've been through it, guys. The ideal to which people with anorexia strive towards is inherently based in racism, colonialism, pedophilia, and consumerism. And also heavily influenced by men's desire to conquer something, to own something, to protect something lesser. It's catering to the male desire for superiority that is rooted in racism and pedophilia. If we think about this in terms of races that are or have been considered white, it's always the races that are more likely to develop a straight, thin body type. What races receive the absolute most vitriol in this country? It's Black people and Latinos. Two demographics that, on average, have fuller figures, have more curves, carry weight in a certain way that is not appealing to the mainstream white ideal. And we can see this in the races that white people fetishize also, such as Asians. We can also see this in the way straight men consume porn. When a woman has a curvier figure, she must be dominant. She must be, like, telling you how it is, blah, blah, blah. And that's exciting because it goes against the traditional paradigm of the men being dominant. And it goes against the traditional paradigm of how a woman should act and look. And the women that fill these roles, a lot of the time, are Black and brown women. Not to say that Black and brown women are naturally that archetype. I don't think that they are. I don't think that any race has an archetype, obviously. But it's the roles that these women are forced to fill in order to progress in their profession, because that's what the market asks for. But you see people who fetishize East Asian women, and they're always little and petite and submissive. Schoolgirl uniforms, pigtails, a childish high-pitched voice. Because what the market wants from those types of women is to fulfill a pedophilic fantasy. And even though a thin, straight figure is more common in East Asians, to white viewers, white male straight viewers, associate these traits with children. This is also where that desire for your women to be hairless comes from, and why the more dominant women in porn usually tend to have more hair, because it's this exciting thing of a mature woman, and you're the little kid this time. You may like a thin, hairless figure, purely aesthetically, but have you analyzed why you prefer that body type over others? Have you asked yourself why you prefer that? Because I can tell you this, it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that the majority of people prefer that. It is manufactured. It simultaneously fulfills the desire of the patriarchy and makes you spend more money and makes you have less energy, which I've also mentioned in that previous video. And something that confirms to me that this is definitely a racialized issue is the amount of women I see on campus that are carbon copies of each other. All of them stick thin, all of them bleach blonde, all of them wearing the same clean girl aesthetic, which we know, hopefully, that is rooted in racism as well. And they appear in gaggles of these hoes, and they all look the same. All of them are white, and I swear, I'm on campus a lot, because if I'm not in this apartment, I am on campus. I never see these people interact with anybody that isn't white, or anybody even that doesn't look like them. From what I glean from my extensive eavesdropping, because I have no wife, is that also the vast majority of the people that fit this archetype are Trumpers, are conservatives, or they're apolitical, but really they're conservative. And eavesdropping on these women, it is very apparent that they are extremely male-centered. This is no coincidence, because as I've stated before, the anorexia body type caters to the pedophile gaze, bro. And this does not only apply to straight situations. This can apply to lesbian, gay, whatever. And that's when it really sickens me. It sickens me on a baseline. But when the queer community is infiltrated by grossly heterosexual norms that are rooted in such disgusting ideologies, I feel that we should know better. And I know this is a problem specifically, I was gonna say specifically in the lesbian community, but to be honest, the twink epidemic is upon us. It is not impossible, in fact, it is quite probable that gay men will center the male gaze. And it is not improbable, and actually quite common, that lesbians also center the male gaze. And something I don't understand is, why do you want to get rid of diversity? Because by being anorexic and squeezing yourself into this little unnatural, sickly shape that's in vogue right now, what you're doing is conforming. You know, I thought being queer was all about rejecting the status quo and building your own morals and building your own community. And yet, here we are, absolutely devastated by the same shit that's affecting our straight friends. Like, in all my years of life, never have I seen gay people cater to straight aesthetics so intensely. And it's just kind of disappointing. It's a little bit disappointing to see. Also, because I'm losing the fat bitches. Where the fat bitches at? Okay, because I feel like we're in a drought right now. I feel like we're in a drought. I don't like I'm bony, I want something I can grab, so I pull up in the jam and I hit him with the jam like dun 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 dun. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Goodbye.